All right, example 4, it says, what is the length of AD? So again, look at the wording. This time we have that little arc symbol over top of the AD, so your brain might be thinking, well, I'm supposed to put an angle measure on this one. But it says, what is the length? Okay. Length is how far you're going. The measure, if it says, what is the measure of arc AD? Now, it wants the angular measure. So AD is from A, the short direction, around to D. Okay, and notice this says, express the answer in terms of pi. So, notice that we have the central angle for arc CD. We have the central angle for arc BC. We have the central angle for arc AB. The only central angle we don't have is the one for arc AD. Right? But we know that there's 360 degrees in a circle, which means however big this angle is here, I'm just going to call it X to give it a name. If I add up X and 104 and 43 and 73, that should add up to 360. So that's where I'm going to start. So X plus 104 plus 43 plus 73 has to equal 360. If I add up all the numbers on the left-hand side, 3 plus 3 plus 4 is 10, 80, 120, 220. X plus 220 equals 360. We slide the 220 over, we get X equals 140. So at this point, we now know that this is 140 degrees. We want the length of AD. Now this is exactly like example 2 was. The radius is 4 meters. The central angle is 140. To figure out the length of AD, we're using the formula D over 360 times 2 pi r. Now one thing I'm going to give you some advice for, as being in geometry, algebra was last year. I'm sure Mrs. Black would have given you the same advice back in Algebra 1, but sometimes people don't listen to advice back in 8th grade or 9th grade. Now you guys are in 9th grade and 10th grade, so maybe you listen to advice better. So here's my advice. Anytime you get a formula and you don't know that formula and you've never seen that formula, anytime you're going to use that formula, if you write the formula down every single time you use it until you don't have to look it up anymore, that's how you memorize formulas. And throughout math, you're going to get a ton of formulas. I'm going to give you just a ballpark figure. 197 formulas. Somewhere in that neighborhood. All right? And it's one of those things that if I say, for example, just 10 minutes ago, does anybody remember the formula for the circumference of a circle? Okay, circumference equals 2 pi r. Not a terribly difficult formula, right? But it's not in your brain. All right? So, if you want to memorize formulas, which would be a good little thing to have inside your brain, that's how you do it. Anytime you have to look it up, you write it down. Until you don't have to look it up anymore, then you got it memorized. It's real simple. It takes about 10 seconds every time you do a problem. And it's not like extra work, it's just like, you just got to write it down. And then every time you write it down, it's going to get stuck in your brain. It's like memory super glue going on there. So just can't help but memorize stuff if you do that. So D central angle is 140, so the arc length here is going to be 140 over 360 times 2 pi times the radius of 4 meters. So again, what's going in my calculator is going to be 140 times 2 times 3.14 times 4 divided by 360. Oh, wait, in terms of pi. Erase that. So if we want in terms of pi, I'm going to multiply 140 times 2 times 4. I want to get my top number. All right. So 140 times 2 times 4 is 1120. 360 is on the bottom, and pi is on the top. So again, get the product of these three pieces, attach it to pi on top, put it over 360, then reduce the fraction. Well, the zeros cancel, right? 112, if you don't know they both divide by 4, you know they at least divide by 2, right? So reduce the fraction. I'm going to go by 4. So 112 divided by 4 is 28. So I'm going to get 28 pi 36 divided by 4 is 9. And 28 and 9 don't divide by the same number, right? So that's as far as I can reduce it. We're in meters, so 28 pi over 9 meters would be the answer. Again, if it didn't specify, I can go to the nearest tenth, or I can go to the pi form, but it did specify, so I need to leave it in that form.